I'm Cynthia Izaguirre in Dallas with your headlines from North Texas. With fewer than 100 days until the general election, the race for the U.S. Senate seat in Texas is entering a critical stretch. Both Ken Paxton and James Tallarico are working to shore up key voting blocks they'll need to win in November. Cole Sullivan explains where each candidate is focusing their efforts.
Fans are usually the ones who line up at the door. In DeSoto last week, it was also people looking to get convinced.
I just want to hear what he has to say. I'm interested in him.
Democrat James Tallarico is here to recruit voters he needs in a part of Dallas County that voted overwhelmingly against him in the Senate primary.
But there is no way to win Texas without black Texans.
He's not just saying that, says SMU poli-sci professor Cal Jolson.
It's absolutely critical because about 20% of the vote that he's likely to get will come from black Democrats. And if that goes down a couple points, it's big trouble.
Jolson says Republican Ken Paxton also needs to shore up votes, particularly among suburban women. Paxton focused on policing at his most recent event in North Texas.
When it was unpopular in some circles to stand with law enforcement, I stood with law enforcement.
With fewer than 100 days to go, the race is ramping up, says political consultant Erica Barrera.
Yeah, so after Labor Day, it is the sprint to the finish. So you're going to see them crisscrossing the state, trying to connect with voters.
And she says the polls out now, like the one showing Tallarico leading, only matters so much.
I think they're a good benchmark. Right?
So are crowds. What started as lines at the DeSoto Tallarico event gave way to some empty seats by the end of it. But the benchmark that really matters is the vote in November. In DeSoto, I'm Cole Sullivan.
A frightening moment for one Dallas neighborhood. A police chase starting as a robbery ended with more than 100 rounds of gunfire. You can see several bullet holes covering this police officer's vehicle. Brittany Costello shows us how neighbors are cleaning up after the chaos and what police are saying about the investigation.
Alpha Road in Dallas is back open. For Andrew Marks, it means he can finally clear off his driveway.
This is a unique situation.
He's blowing off broken glass and discarded gloves.
They had everybody here already. They had the dogs here sniffing.
An overnight shooting involving Richardson police ended on his property near 635 and Preston Road. Police say they were chasing an aggravated robbery suspect when he started shooting at them. Neighbor Jose Hernandez says he heard it around 2:30 this morning.
I was on the front garlic, so like I said, my room is kind of like facing the street, and so I could clearly hear it, and so immediately I just went down to the ground.
Neighbor Emmanuel Cardoza says he counted more than 100 evidence markers in the street next to his home. Evidence, he says, matches what he heard.
They continued for a solid 10-20 seconds and just straight gunfire.
Bullets riddled a police unit. Police say this black Jeep belonged to the suspect, now identified as 34-year-old Ryan Drowan. He was hit, and police say he was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Officers were not injured.
It's just random that it ended up here.
Police say it started nearly 20 miles away at a restaurant in the Colony around midnight. A late-night business owner says they called for help when a man who was not a customer attempted to rob people in their parking lot. They say the suspect pulled up and pulled out a gun. They say he demanded money before leaving empty-handed. The alleged crime led various police departments through Plano, then Richardson, before ending in Dallas.
The mess is the mess.
It's not enough to scare away longtime neighbors.
There's good and bad everywhere you go.
But they are thankful it wasn't worse.
Glad it's all over.
In Dallas, I'm Brittany Costello.
Newly obtained court records are revealing disturbing details behind a Forney ISD investigation. That investigation led to the removal of a principal, aides, and a teacher last May. An arrest warrant describes alleged classroom abuse and new questions about how that teacher was hired. Aaron Heft is digging into the new documents and brings us the latest from Kaufman County.
We've obtained new documents, including an arrest warrant, which shed light on the, quote, misconduct, including abuse, inside of Forney ISD.
In the arrest documents, Texas Rangers say they watched surveillance video that show 45-year-old Jonathan Michael harming students in a classroom. Evidence reportedly showing the teacher getting upset with a student and performing what's described as a, quote, armbar takedown, end quote, before pushing that student into a bookshelf. Documents also describe a separate incident caught on camera, allegedly showing Michael grabbing a student by their backpack or jacket, throwing them to the ground, then pressing his knee into that child's chest. The suspect was arrested in May, facing charges of injury to a child. In a statement, the district said, quote, he is no longer an employee of Forney ISD. We have no statements at this time, end quote. We spoke with Terry Miller, a national advocate who actively fights to ensure students are safe inside their classrooms.
The real problem is that teachers that are deviant and abusive do not operate in a vacuum.
District officials told WFAA Michael was hired in October of 2025 under a different name with a clean DPS and FBI fingerprint background check and clean certification through the State Board of Education. Later learning through an investigation, he had legally changed his name before being hired at Forney ISD. The district said the suspect had faced charges under his prior name, for which he was acquitted. In Kaufman County, I'm Erin Heft.
Latest census shows DFW is home to 5 of the fastest growing cities in the entire nation, including the #1 slot. Now new numbers show who is moving here. DFW is among the top destinations for millennials and Gen Z. Teresa Woodard explains why.
DFW is hot. And not just because it's July. Summer is the busiest time for moves, and new data shows DFW is the most popular place to move to.
This week will be my second month living in Dallas.
What do you think?
I love it.
For young people.
What's your name?
Derek.
Derek, I'm Elspeth.
I had many friends that came to Dallas and they said Dallas is the place to go for opportunities. If you want to get somewhere and be successful in life, you need to go to Dallas.
U-Haul tracks moves and says Dallas-Fort Worth is the #1 region in the nation for a net gain of millennial movers, #2 for Gen Z.
I actually moved here with no job, and I was able to find a job in about 2 weeks of me being here.
That job for Jocelyn Carter came at a real estate investment company where the vice president has seen North Texas transplants trending younger.
From an age standpoint, you see where you're dealing with 23-year-olds are making a decision at 22 to decide where they want to live straight out of college.
The job market, relative affordability, and lifestyle.
Social media is a big part of our life. I knew about the Katy Trail before I moved here.
Are DFW's selling points.
They said that the Katy Trail is like the runway for Dallas. It is. It really is. You might meet your husband or future wife on that trail.
And even in a sizzling summer.
Is Dallas forever?
Dallas is 100% forever. I'm never going back to Cleveland.
Jocelyn is sold.
Bye, everyone. I hope you have a great night. I'm going to go hit the Katy Trail if anyone would like to join, okay?
In Dallas, okay. I'm Teresa Woodard.
Okay.
She is so cool. I want to be Jocelyn's friend. And those are your headlines from North Texas.
Hello there, Mia Grady here with a look at what's making headlines in Houston, starting with beach police expanding an effort to save lives in the water at Surfside Beach nearly 2 months after 11-year-old Joshua Lahai drowned. KHOU 11's Michelle Choi got to see how the department is making the beach safer, one life jacket at a time.
Every day, Surfside Beach Police Chief Philip Hester spends hours driving the shoreline, looking for anything that could put beachgoers in danger. Today, he invited us along.
So this is the main entrance. You come in, there's a booth to the right.
His latest focus, making life jackets as easy to grab as sunscreen or a beach chair.
So we made a real simple program. It's just, there's a rack there with the life jackets. If people need them, they grab them. And then when they leave, they can hang them back up to dry.
After 11-year-old Joshua Lahai drowned while swimming here over Memorial Day weekend, the department accelerated plans for free life jacket stations.
You know, every drowning is personal. Every time we lose someone, we start thinking about what we can do to make things better. What could we have done different?
Today, there are 5 stations at the 5 beach entrances managed by Surfside Beach Police, stocked with about 150 donated life jackets in various sizes.
And these are all here for free for the public to use, right, Chief?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, they're absolutely free.
Officers also carry donated life jackets in patrol vehicles and reward kids wearing them with goodie bags like these. Soon, 25 donated rescue rings will also be installed along the beach.
And you look at the water today and you think, hey, it looks pretty nice. When they go out to the third sandbar, they're so far out that when they step off that sandbar, they might be in 20 foot of water and they panic. Well, by the time it takes someone to swim back in to tell us that somebody stepped off that sandbar, we've lost a lot of time. Whereas if they had a life jacket on, they stepped off the sandbar, they might panic, but at least they're panicking while they're floating.
Chief Hester says he's already seeing signs it's working.
There's another little girl right there going out in the water. She's got a life jacket on. We're just not used to seeing that out here. It's happening more and more often.
And that's exactly the kind of change
Encouraging to see more and more life jackets out there.
It is.
he hopes continues.
I want every life jacket to be out here. The more we can put out here, the better.
Yeah, if you'd like to help keep this effort going, Chief Hester says that Surfside Beach Police are still accepting donated life jackets. For information on how you can help, just go to khou.com. Back to you.
Michelle Choi, thank you. The city of Houston is scrambling to find another way to support minority-owned small businesses. That's after a federal judge ruled a city program meant to help those businesses win government contracts is unconstitutional. Orko Manna spoke with both sides in this legal fight.
What our clients basically wanted with this lawsuit, what they've wanted all along, was just to be able to compete equally.
Laura D'Agostino is an attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation and represents two Houston landscaping companies who argue that the City of Houston's and the Midtown Management District's Minority Women and Small Business Enterprise programs gave, quote, preferences to businesses owned by racial minorities when it came to awarding government contracts. They claimed that put them at an unfair disadvantage.
It sets up an unconstitutional barrier because there is a consideration of race when these contracts are being awarded.
That's what a federal judge ruled this week, stating that the race-conscious portions of the contracting programs violated the 14th Amendment.
When the government gets into the business of using race, it should be very careful, especially after this decision.
But the Greater Black Houston Chamber,
I definitely think it's concerning.
Says the ruling will make things harder for minorities than they already are.
Only 5% of Black-owned businesses gain city contracts. So it really shows that there still is a need for equitable resources to make sure that the dollars are spread around.
In a statement to KHOU 11, the city attorney says in part, quote, the city is evaluating a potential appeal to the court's ruling, striking down that portion of the city's program.
I would certainly like to see that happen.
City Council member Carolyn Evans-Shabazz tells me in the meantime, opportunities must be made available to minority-owned businesses.
We were relying a great deal on this, but now that it has been deemed unconstitutional, and unless there is an appeal that is successful, we still have to help our small businesses to be able to engage in getting city contracts.
And that was Orko Manna reporting for us. Now to football fans. Go ahead, rejoice. The first step has been taken and the return to the gridiron. Day one of training camp is in the books for the Houston Texans. Jason Bristol was there for the first day, and here he is now with Houston's expectations heading into the season.
Getting better, that was one of the big themes of this first day of Houston Texans training camp. Obviously doing things better each and every day as we get closer and closer to exhibition games, but also preparing this team for something bigger and better. The Texans taking the field at the Houston Methodist Training Center on Wednesday morning and ending up practicing for about an hour and 20 minutes. All of the big names are here, obviously. C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson Jr., Nico Collins. C.J. Stroud also in line for a big second contract. Nick Caserio, the Texans GM, mentioning how the two sides have had some productive discussions about that. What did CJ have to say about all this? He is simply focused on football.
You know, I'm focused on ball, do what I can, you know, and what I should be doing as a quarterback of this team. So.
And obviously, all of you out there have big, lofty expectations for this team. And now let's bring in Luis Ortiz. And it's interesting to hear how some are willing to talk about what's in front of them while others are choosing to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, Nick Caserio, one of them, being very, very generic when asked about the expectations of this team, especially about in the way that this team has come from less to more, the way that they've grown right over the last 3 years since drafting C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr., while other guys are really kind of taking the bull by the horn and saying, hey, look, we expect to win. We want to go and you know, make big things happen.
And here's what they were saying on day one of Texans training camp.
When you guys ask me about expectations, the only thing I know is high expectations.
I mean, the expectations are the same. Like, we can't control what people say outside of the building.
Nobody outside of this building is going to have a higher expectation than what we have in this building.
We have a better roster than we even did last year, so I'm excited to, get going with these guys.
So ultimately in our training camp tracker, the Texans want to be better each day. And as for the football news, Jalen Noel on the non-football injury list. Jalen has a finger issue suffered during training recently. Texans don't seem concerned. Tank Dell coming back from his knee injury. He is ramping up, and the Texans are basically going to take it day by day to see how he progresses. So that is training camp tracker from day one for Luis Ortiz, Jason Bristol. That's the story here from the Houston Methodist Training Center.
It is on. Let's go Texans. And with that, that's a wrap of your Houston headlines. I'm Mia Gradney.
Bill Taylor here for Texas News Now Weather. I don't know the last time I've seen a Texas drought report with as little red on it as this one. I mean, you've got to go up to Amarillo before you find red. That's incredible. I mean, and look at how much of the state isn't even contoured in. Remember that yellow is just drier than average. If you look at the legend at the top of the screen, you don't run into drought until you see moderate, which is that khaki brown. And that's reserved for South Texas, a small pocket east of Dallas. And then most of the drought is up in the Panhandle associated with New Mexico and Oklahoma, where you see exceptional drought. The one small pocket of extreme drought east of Amarillo. This is incredible. I mean, we've seen some incredible rain since really April, but now stuck under high pressure, we're in a hot, dry weather pattern as we move into the weekend and more time outdoors. So please keep these tips in mind on how to beat the heat. Drink plenty of water. If you're like me, yes, I enjoy coffee too, but make sure that morning coffee is also coupled with some ice cold water. If you're going to be outside, the clothing has to be light colored, loose fitting. It really makes a difference on how your body responds to the heat, as does your eating habits. Try not to eat yourself full. Don't stuff yourself. Instead, try to eat yourself not hungry, I'll call it, because that makes a difference. If your body is busy digesting, you're definitely going to feel the heat a lot more. Remember, caffeine and alcohol can definitely help dehydrate. A couple of other tips in here. Make sure you're, of course, taking good breaks and eat regularly. That's not an easy word to say, regularly. That's why I say just don't overeat. All right, also some pet safety tips. This is so important because the heat can really affect your pets as you take your dog for a walk. Remember how hot it can get for those paws. If it's 85 degrees outside on the thermometer, that means the concrete's up to 105 and the asphalt 130. I mean, we're at 85 by mid-morning. So keep in mind that if you're going to be walking the dog, try that 5-second rule. Put your hand on the pavement, either on the concrete or asphalt. Put the back of your hand on there for at least 5 seconds. If you can't hold it there for 5-6 seconds, you can't walk your dog. Keep in mind that it's early morning or late evening as far as the best time to walk. Now, good news is that we start seeing some signs of relief from the high. The upper level high pressure cooker expected to slide a bit to the west, and that could open the door for a chance of rain with a weak frontal boundary over the weekend. Looks like Central Texas will have the best chance of getting some of that precipitation as precipitable water values start picking up. That's the key, getting some moisture to work with. When this is blue, it's really hard to get any rainfall. But now we're looking at a decent chance on coverage Saturday. Let's take a look. First, this front hammers out some pretty good downpours between Amarillo and Lubbock on Friday night at 9 p.m. As we work our way into Saturday morning, looks like San Angelo and maybe down to about Big Bend on some rain, also near the state capitol. It's going to be about midday and early afternoon to mid-afternoon hours that we see a line of showers breaking up over San Antonio and some spots near Del Rio, and then down to the Texas coast. coast. For Corpus Christi, maybe up to almost Galveston for Saturday evening downpours. Then as we work our way into Sunday, looks like it's reserved for deep South Texas, and most of the state stays dry Sunday afternoon. So now the extended forecast with some rain chances showing up around the state on Saturday only. It's going to be short-lived. You can see McAllen, it holds off, and maybe on Sunday you see a chance of rain there and 102. Look at that Saturday high in McAllen, 105. That is definitely, I was going to say the winter, but it looks like it's going to be Friday in El Paso for a 106 as far as the hottest temp on this extended forecast. Just make sure you're hydrating and stay safe as we move into the weekend.
Hello from Austin, I'm Mark Mullins. Autonomous vehicles are doing more than just transporting passengers around Austin. About a month ago, the city began using data from Waymo to help find potholes faster and decide which ones needed repairs first. KVU's Allison Hill takes a closer look at how this program is working and whether it's making a difference on Austin's roads.
Another bump, another pothole. For many Austinites, they say it's just part of the daily drive.
Down here, like in downtown, they're everywhere.
I drive a lowered car, so the potholes are very prominent. I can feel every single one of them. They're terrible.
A month ago, the city of Austin turned to something already driving its streets every day: Waymo's self-driving cars.
Through a first-of-its-kind pilot, the vehicles automatically detect potholes like this one and send those reports directly to the city at no cost.
Potholes are more than just a nuisance. They're a real danger to anybody who's biking or walking or scooting or driving in a city. And we're really excited to be able to provide this data to cities, again, to be a good neighbor and to help advance street safety in all the ways.
Now we're getting a look at the results. Since June, the city says Waymo has reported 22 potholes, with city crews inspecting 17 of them and already beginning to fill some.
Part of the idea is, we're driving around, we're collecting these potholes. We see this as additive to 311 systems. But for 311, you go over a pothole, you're like, oh, I really need to report that. Like, we're doing that through a feed immediately. It's already happening.
Because the technology is still new, city crews still verify nearly everyone before repairs begin. They say that's because some potholes turn out to be utility cuts or sunken manhole covers that require a different fix.
It's a great idea because if they actually get it done and do take action to fill the potholes, that would be great for all drivers, yeah.
While the pilot is still in its early stages, city leaders hope it will give them another set of eyes on the road, helping find more potholes before drivers do. In Austin, Allison Hill, KVUE News.
We also asked the city how the number of potholes reported by Waymo compares to those reported through the city's 311 system, and we are still waiting to hear back. The city of Austin is moving closer to a proposed renaming of one of the busiest roads in downtown, Cesar Chavez Street. This comes after a recent New York Times report alleging sexual abuse by the civil rights icon. El Concilio is the group that led to the push to name that street, which runs through the historic heart of Austin's Hispanic community after Chavez in 1993. They now support reverting the name back to East 1st Street. The city will host community meetings about the street renaming. The first one is August 11th at Austin Central Library, then August 15th at Sanchez Elementary School, followed by a virtual meeting on August 18th. The Kyle City Council is at the center of a heated debate over a forensic audit into 5 allegations of financial misconduct. Earlier this week, the council voted to investigate those claims. The allegations include misuse of city credit cards, trying to bribe a business owner with $1 million, and a $24 million dip in the city's general fund over the last 3 years. But there's a larger fight about why the audit is happening in the first place. KVUE's Jessica Cha spoke with several city leaders about whether they support or oppose this audit.
Behind the doors of City Hall, Kyle City leaders have been wrestling with questions about whether city finances are being handled the right way.
The potential audit scope could include review of potential fraud, misuse of taxpayer funds, and financial transactions.
On Tuesday, City Council voted to potentially investigate 5 different allegations of financial misconduct. And now that debate is spilling into the open.
It started for me a couple years ago when I was first elected, and I just saw some questionable things.
Before she was elected into her current position, Mayor Yvonne Flores-Cale says she's always kept up with city finances.
I've continued to see the spending, and there was definitely more going out than there was coming in.
With the city's growing financial problems, she says it made a deeper look necessary, which was an easy
Goza? Yes.
For Councilmember Courtney Goza.
It is our taxpayers' money, and how we spend that should be absolutely the most responsible way possible.
Goza says some of the allegations hold water, like the claim that the city overpaid to purchase several properties across town.
I was able to look up one of the properties and find out that we paid more for it than it was advertised for sale for, and it had been on the market about 3 years, so it wouldn't have been in a multi-offer situation.
Goza says that even though the audits could take the next several years to complete, it's worth the money.
I think for just transparency's sake, even if we find that no wrongdoing was done criminally, at least getting that on the record and showing what really happened is the least we can do for the residents.
But Councilmember Laura Lee Harris,
I did not vote for this audit to begin with,
sees the audit differently. She says the audit is redundant and a waste of time.
We recently did a risk audit that showed us where the risks were in all of our departments, including finance. And we were making changes on that. So I'm not sure why this is necessary.
Harris says the push for an audit sends a negative message to residents, claiming some allegations have already been resolved.
The Attorney General's already ruled on one. We've had attorneys rule on another of the 7 issues. I think they'll find nothing, and we will just spend a lot of money.
For now, the city's next move is still in the air, but opinions about the audit are in the open. And Kyle, Jessica Cha, KVUE News.
It is the beginning of the end for one of the most iconic spots for sweets in Austin. The original Lamb's Candy store on Airport Boulevard in North Austin is shutting down after 141 years in business. We watched Thursday morning as a steady stream of customers came in to get their hands on the last batch of treats. The owners say they're shutting down because of high costs, setbacks, and aging ownership. Lamb says they'll officially close down once they sell out of products this week. 60 years ago, in late July of 1966, Austin was stricken with Batman fever. Thousands of people showed up to see the stars of the Batman TV show who were in the city for the world premiere of the first Batman movie. KVUE's Bob Buckaloo has the backstory.
A parade on Congress Avenue in Austin. It's July 1966, and thousands have turned out to see the stars of the most popular TV show of the day. The Batman TV show on ABC was drawing millions of viewers and had become a pop culture phenomenon. So the producers decided to make a full-length movie with the characters from the TV show. And on this hot summer day at Austin's Paramount Theater, behold the world premiere of the first ever Batman movie called Batman, the movie. In Austin that day, actor Adam West, who played Batman in the TV show, was mobbed by fans. And several of those TV villains were also in town for the movie premiere. Actor Burgess Meredith, who played the Penguin, Cesar Romero as the Joker. And Lee Merriweather, the Catwoman. She made quite an impression on someone who was at the parade that day.
I always had a crush on Catwoman, and I finally got to meet her, and I got scratched on my hand when she was signing autographs, and I wouldn't wash my hand for a week.
Now, you may be wondering why the Batman movie received its world premiere in Austin instead of, say, Hollywood or Gotham City. It was because of this, the Bat Boat, created for the movie by Austin's Glastron Boat Company. It's been reported that the company didn't want any money for fabricating the boat. They simply wanted Austin to host the film's premiere in return. So it's not exactly Gone with the Wind or The Wizard of Oz, but it does have its entertaining and silly moments. Of course, Austin has had a number of big movie premieres since then, but in the Austin of 1966, this was a very big deal. Bob Buckaloo, KVUE News.
Right here in Austin. That'll do it for us from Austin. We hope you have a great day.
I'm Mike Gillespie in Corpus Christi, and here's a look at some of what's making news in South Texas. Well, Shark Week made a big splash in the coastal bend, taking center stage at the Texas State Aquarium. Bill Churchwell got an up-close look at feeding time and found out that these apex predators are a lot more fascinating than frightening.
Around here, breakfast comes with a little more bite. Cue the dramatic music. Before the doors open to the public at the Texas State Aquarium, it's feeding time for some of the Gulf's most understood residents.
Once they hear those 6 taps and they smell the food in the water, they'll come right over.
Denise Rocha knows exactly what each shark eats and exactly how much.
After they've consumed 2 pounds of food, we will cut them off.
Expecting a feeding frenzy? This wasn't it. In fact, the water was surprisingly calm.
This was not on my bingo card for 2026.
I even got the rare opportunity to offer up a snack for these sandbar sharks, and then came the hardest part, waiting.
You have to have patience for this.
Yes, you do.
The Texas State Aquarium gives visitors a chance to see the incredible marine life living off our coasts. But during Shark Week, these apex predators steal the show.
They can be scary, and I understand they're big animals sometimes, but they play an incredibly important role in the nurseries for sharks here in the coastal bend serve the entire Gulf.
Inside the Saving Sharks exhibit is where we met 8-year-old Aramis,
Look what it compares to a literal megalodon.
who was rattling off shark facts faster than the experts could quiz him.
That's a normal-sized great white jaw.
I'd say there's a pretty good chance we just met a future marine biologist. And the more you learn, the less scary sharks become. That's exactly what Shark Week is all about.
Black tip, bull sharks.
Dr. Kesley Banks with the Heart Research Institute says it's the perfect opportunity to replace fear with facts.
Every time you enter the water, you are entering their home and you are likely to be close to a shark. However, you are more likely to injure yourself taking a selfie than you are to actually be bit by a shark.
So whether you're spending Shark Week at the aquarium or cooling off in Gulf waters, chances are the sharks are simply doing what they've done for more than 400 million years, quietly minding their own business. Bill Churchwell, 3 News.
Well, how about this? A high school senior is turning a passion for science into a tool for South Texas. As Natalia Osuna shows us, he's created a website that maps local water supply and drought conditions with help from his teacher, who has been there every step of the way.
While many are talking about Corpus Christi's water future, one local student is helping people understand it.
As of today, it's 32.4% full.
For senior Damian Aviles, his classroom reaches far beyond the halls of Veterans Memorial High School.
Water does impact everyone.
After taking part in a prestigious academic program in Washington, D.C., Damian returned home with a mission, using GIS technology to create a website that helps visualize the region's water challenges.
By being informed and having the resources and knowledge to kind of understand the current drought situation we are in, it does influence our kind of actions that we take for the community.
A Corpus Christi native, Aviles says he wants to help his community better understand drought-related issues.
I'm just glad that I'm able to give back to the community that has obviously brought stuff for me.
And he hasn't done it all alone. His teacher, Porfirio Zamora,
the more information, the better,
encouraged Damian to apply for the program and helped brainstorm ideas for the project.
I tell my students is that there's really just 2 things that you need. What is it you're interested in, and how is it going to help the people around you?
After 27 years in education, Zamora says that seeing students like Damian thrive is one of the best parts of the job.
When he started sending me pictures of his GIS platform, it was like, wow. It was that moment when for every teacher kind of can relate to, where you get that aha, where this kid takes something that you just introduce them to, and they take it to a level that you couldn't even have thought of yourself.
For Damian, this project is just the beginning of a future dedicated to public service through science.
I'm planning on going to college and majoring in environmental engineering, where more specifically concentrated in the water systems. I want to get my master's in public policy.
Quite the bright future indeed. Hey, that is a quick look at some of what's making news in South Texas.
Hi, I'm Dan Millay, and here's what's making headlines across East Texas. Agricultural experts say the high temperatures are taking a toll on livestock, creating challenges for ranchers across the region as they are putting high stress on livestock. Agricultural experts say as the heat continues, pastures begin to dry out, reducing the quality of forage available for grazing. That can force ranchers to feed hay earlier than usual. It also means making sure the animals have plenty of clean water, shade, and are worked during the cooler parts of the day.
We might enter drought conditions here soon, and which would return we would have to start feeding hay a little earlier than normal. Also, stress on cattle, stress on sheep, goats, horses. They typically can regulate their own body temperatures by going and getting in shade. However, we need to make sure that we have available clean water for them at all times.
The impact of the heat can extend beyond the pasture. According to the Texas Tribune, the Consumer Price Index report for May shows beef prices nationwide have increased 12.9% over the past year. The publication also reports that Texas's beef cattle industry contributed about $7.2 billion annually to the state's economy from 2018 to 2021, which impacts how much is available for us to purchase. If you spend any time outside exercising or simply walking, you know it's hot. Now, imagine having to work in this heat for hours. CBS 19's Renee Estrada shows us how one local business is handling the extreme conditions and what paramedics say everyone needs to do to stay safe.
For Damian Arnold, the heat has always been part of the job.
This past 2 weeks, we've been really starting early. Leaving out meeting like 5:30, being at our first location about 6, so that we can beat the heat and definitely get a lot done before the sun actually is fully up.
After working outdoors for over 10 years, he says the biggest challenge isn't just the temperature, it's how the heat starts to weigh on your body and mind.
Keeping a peaceful mind frame. As it gets hot, it gets a little bit more mind-boggling because the heat is agitating you. The sun rays becomes an issue, but overall, yeah, it's a lot more difficult.
Damian's crew, which does landscaping work, knows the importance of taking breaks and staying hydrated. But paramedics say not everyone recognizes when their body is in danger.
Last year in July, we had just under 90 calls, like 80-something calls that were heat-related. Last week on Monday, we were at 54 calls across our entire system. Today, this morning, we checked, we're at over 100 now, just heat-related calls.
Vicki LeMay, an education coordinator and paramedic at UT Health, says people often don't realize they're in trouble until their body is already shutting down.
When they really start getting to where they're not acting like themselves, when we get to that point where we're not thinking straight because we're so overheated, we may not make the best decisions.
Vicki says the message is simple. Listen to your body before the heat becomes an emergency.
10 to 15 minutes, you should be having a sip of water. Every 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you should be taking a break, cooling off, checking on yourself, checking on each other is super important.
In Tyler, Renee Estrada, CBS 19.
And that's a wrap for your East Texas headlines. I'm Dan Millay.
I'm Isis Romero, and this is the news in San Antonio. A plea to the public to stop abandoning pets. Animals are being dumped outside a local sanctuary and left so weak and neglected they nearly don't survive. Now staff is pleading with the public to stop abandoning pets and choose safer options. Simone Simpson has the details.
In this Ring video from July 22nd, a red car circles the parking lot of the Paws Ranch Rescue and Animal Sanctuary in South Bexar County. In another clip, the car pulls off with a puppy running after it. The puppy stops and was left to fend for itself in temperatures that reached 100 to 110 degrees that day.
Evil is an innocent, helpless creature, kittens and puppies. Knock on the door, I'll talk to you.
This is the puppy today named Cutie, in Ashley Denton's care as founder of the Animal Sanctuary. She says signs and cameras on her property hasn't deterred people.
Just says don't dump your animals here. Pretty clear. It also says you're being recorded.
This isn't the first time Denton says animals were dumped outside her facility without even a call, email, or knock on the animal sanctuary door, letting her know the animals were left outside. BCSO confirmed generating 6 reports from Denton in the last 2 years. The last time she reported animal dumping to BCSO was in April, when kittens were found barely clinging on to life.
90 degrees that day. They were in a small carrier. It was black, no water, and we were not there. The gate was locked. We couldn't get there for an hour. Those kittens almost died.
Over a year ago, this pit bull was left on the sanctuary's fence.
There's free spay neuter for everybody in San Antonio. And if you live outside the city limits, $75. You can get your pet fixed. Fix your pets. Don't have a litter. And then what am I going to do? Oh, somebody will take them. There is nobody.
Funding isn't easy, taking in the influx of animals.
If someone drops off an animal, that comes out of our budget that we have set aside for emergencies. Because if you bring an animal to us, we don't get tax dollars. We don't get huge grants. We're not just taking everybody's animals in the greater Alamo area. And I can't afford to pay for everybody's animals.
If you'd like to support the nonprofit Paws Ranch Rescue and Animal Sanctuary, we'll have a link on our site at kens5.com. I'm Simone Simpson.
Data center projects across Texas are sparking debate and backlash from residents who live nearby. Now a group of Guadalupe County residents are suing the Commissioner's Court over data center tax breaks and other alleged violations. Arbella Papaduke has the details.
I'm standing outside Cloudburst Data Center property in Guadalupe County. This is one of 2 data center developments in the center of a lawsuit against the county commissioner's court.
And my parents and sister are next door.
For Abigail Lindsay, this land is more than a place to live. It's home to 4 generations of her family.
We just wanted a little compound, and we wanted to just, walk to each other's houses and go swimming and eat together.
She lives just down the road from the proposed Cloudburst Data Center site.
There's dark skies, there's wildlife, there's foxes, there's armadillos, there's raccoons, there's deers, there's wild turkeys.
Lindsay says she spent months fighting several data center projects in the area, worried about what it could mean for her family, her community, and the rural way of life.
This is all at stake. There's nothing that these data centers don't touch regarding your food supply, your water, your electricity rates, the air pollution, the sound pollution, the EMF frequencies.
Now that fight has moved into the courtroom. A group of Guadalupe County residents, ranchers, and the Data Center Action Coalition have filed a lawsuit against the Guadalupe County Commissioner's Court. The lawsuit accuses the county of violating the Texas Tax Code, Texas Conflict of Interest laws, and the Texas Open Meetings Act, while approving tax incentives in development agreements for the Cloudburst and Palomino Alpha data center projects. The petition claims the 2 developments would transform more than 1,700 acres of rural land into massive data center campuses, require gigawatt-scale power demand, and cost taxpayers an estimated $150 million in property tax incentives. The plaintiffs also allege county leaders made decisions behind closed doors. For Lindsay, the lawsuit represents a turning point in a battle she hopes will protect her community.
It just takes, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and there's been many times I want to quit. I've thought about selling, but we're not unique. This is happening across the state of Texas at an alarming rate. It's happening across the U.S. So it's like, okay, if I sold, where would I go?
I reached out to Guadalupe County, but they tell me they cannot comment on pending litigation. Bella Papaduke, KENS 5.
The Guadalupe County Sheriff's Office has a warning for the public. They're alerting everybody not to give any money to a woman accused of running a charity scam that began 4 months ago. Zach Briggs explains.
I miss everything about my son, every single thing about him.
Tyabala McQueenie was just 20 years old when he died in a motorcycle crash in Seguin on March 5th. Parents Shauna Kreidner and Lonnie Abel had high hopes for their son.
He was one day going to take over the family business. He had just started his own business.
One day after Ty's funeral, they were flooded with messages about their neighbor, Lisa McCulka, allegedly holding a benefit plate sale. But they say it wasn't legit.
She was selling plates for us, for our sons,
funeral.
His social media notifications that they never got their plates, that people had donated. Of course, we didn't know anything about it.
Sickened by the news, Kreidner filed a report with the Guadalupe County Sheriff's Office. They've been investigating ever since. The other day, the department took to Facebook, urging people not to give their money to Mikulka for any reason, in light of the alleged charity scam. Here's a receipt from Red Carpet Auto Sales showing the purchase of 2 benefit plates, $30 total. Just one of many examples.
For whatever scam she's running or whoever's tragedy she's exploiting, I want justice for them.
And it turns out Mikulka has a history of running into Seguin police, everything from property theft to theft by deception. Easy Pond just down the street, among the latest businesses impacted.
No, I told my dad and I said, is this lady, pretty creditable? And he said, well, she comes in here pretty often.
Ian Wubana says Mikulka came into the store asking if they'd be down to buy some fresh cuts of beef. The Wubanas were down and paid $200, but they were met with this poor quality picture of meat you can find online.
She actually said she had a flat tire and tried to request more money from us and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we were at with it, and never met up or anything like that. So contacted Guadalupe County.
Guadalupe County jail records show Mikulka's charges related to theft and fraud go back to the late 90s. Investigators are asking anyone who has given money to Mikulka to make a report. They're tracking the number of victims and dollar amount involved. As for Wubana, he's confident Mikulka will end up in jail once again.
Yeah, I won't have the meet anytime soon, but hopefully we won't be seeing her anytime soon.
Zach Briggs, KENS 5.
And that's the news in San Antonio.
I'm Bailey Bates. Here are your headlines from Central Texas. For over 12 hours Wednesday, the State Committee on Business and Commerce heard from energy experts, fellow lawmakers, and angry landowners, all talking about the same thing, the proposed 765 kilovolt transmission lines. Our Sydney Walker was at the Capitol for the hearing and has more from some of our Central Texas neighbors who made their voices heard.
In just 180 days.
The public doesn't feel like they've been treated right and that this is a fair process.
And less than 90 for landowners.
You had landowners here that had 10 months of notice and others that had 27 days.
State energy leaders plan to build a nearly 200-mile-long transmission line going through multiple Central Texas counties.
I got a packet in the mail that showed that these massive 765 kilovolt lines are either crossing my property or running alongside of them.
And for people like John Burrow, right on their property.
I never had an opportunity for my voice to be heard, to obtain the specialized legal representation that you need.
Burrow from Bell County said he was one of 1,400 landowners that never heard about a public meeting.
It's like throwing me into the ring with Mike Tyson. I'm having to battle multi-billion-dollar corporations and their high-powered lawyers.
The same goes for Burnett County.
Towers are going to be, up to 198 feet tall, 141 feet wide.
Where Mia Surratt drove from to speak her mind.
We're hopeful that we can bring those issues to our legislators and say, please help us revise this process and to give us some more protections.
The expedited process was made possible by House Bill 5066, which shortened the process of approval by PUC.
Encore, we gave them an inch and they took hundreds and hundreds of miles.
Representative Brad Buckley, who supported 5066 in 2023, said it's not what he voted for.
Bill authorized regional transmission upgrades and more generation. And now what we see really is the first part of a statewide plan proposed under the guise of that legislation.
He spoke in support today as a lawmaker and a landowner. Landowners who want to press pause.
I'm really looking for the PUC to do the right thing, to make certain that they're leading in the fashion that really represents Texas and represents landowners across Central Texas, particularly in Bell County.
And have their voice heard.
If this goes through, despite all of this outcry that it suggests, do we really have a meaningful part in this process? Is our input valued?
At the Capitol, Sydney Walker, 6 News.
PUC Chairman Thomas Gleason said the PUC is discussing proposing a change to the process, but doubled down on the project, saying that doing nothing to get power to the Permian Basin is not an option. For the 5th consecutive summer, NBA player Kenrich Williams came back to Waco to give back. The Oklahoma City Thunder guard hosted his annual For the City camp at University High School, welcoming hundreds of young players to the court where he once played. And for Williams, the best part of coming home is seeing the impact it has on the next generation.
Just seeing smiles on the kids' faces, knowing that I used to be in their position as well. So So seeing them happy makes me happy. It feels great to be able to make these kids' day and to be able to do this consecutive years. Something that we look forward to every year. Free camp, so the kids look forward to it, and that we really enjoy it and have a good time.
Williams will also host his annual back-to-school giveaway on August 10th, where he hands out backpacks, school supplies, and they offer free haircuts before the kids go back to school. Those are your headlines from Central Texas.
Here are your headlines from Southeast Texas. I'm Nick Canizales. In Port Arthur, a man is dead and a woman was taken to the hospital after a house fire late Wednesday night. Chief Antonio Mitchell says that the fire department was called to Dominion Ranch Drive around 10:30. Now, crews found heavy smoke and flames coming from the front bedroom of the home. Firefighters rescued a woman who then told them a man was still inside. 58-year-old Brett Anthony Wilson was pronounced dead at the scene after they made it in their way there and found his body. Now, the woman was taken to a hospital to be treated. The home has major damage and the cause is still being investigated. 3 men have been indicted in connection to a deadly shooting that shook the Newton community earlier this year and claimed the life of 22-year-old Asia Scott. Police say Tevin Sales, Damian Cooper, and Deontay Johnson are charged with first-degree murder. Scott was killed during a shooting at a party on Kerr Street back in January. It happened on her 22nd birthday. Kendrick Sapp is on trial accused in the 2024 death of a bicyclist. He's charged with intoxication manslaughter, and police say that he was driving on FM 418 in Silsbee when his Jeep struck Kevin Gould, who died at the scene. The trial is happening in Hardin County this week with Judge Steve Thomas presiding.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
Raymond Peoples was found guilty of aggravated assault in Jefferson County on Wednesday. Prosecutors say he attacked a jail lieutenant with a pen during a 2023 cell transfer and then threatened to kill him. Now, while representing himself, Peoples told the jurors that the charge was kind of retaliatory and part of a conspiracy against him. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Christus Southeast Texas held a special blessing Wednesday for the opening of its new clinic. It's geared at making sure survivors of violence continue to receive quality care after they leave the emergency room. Now, the Christus Foundation spent over $1 million to renovate and purchase new equipment for an existing space on campus. 12 News reporter Ebony Coleman has more on why it's so important and unique to the area.
Rachel Thomas, a forensic nurse at the 5020 clinic, says it's the only one of its kind in Southeast Texas that serves survivors of violence in 8 counties.
We know that the healing doesn't stop at the discharge of the ER.
Chris's Southeast Texas Health System is making sure survivors of violence are taken care of every step of the way through their new clinic.
The 5020 clinic is a comprehensive violence care clinic for patients who have experienced violence, such as child abuse, sexual assault, interpersonal violence, domestic violence, elder abuse.
Nurse Rachel Thomas says the clinic is about localizing a need.
We were asking our patients to follow up with their primary care physicians about something very personal, or perhaps travel to Galveston or Houston for that specialty care for pediatric patients. And we know that that's not always the best option.
And providing a space that's safe, even after you step out of the emergency room.
We're not going to be seated in the reception area with 15 other patients that are also receiving comprehensive violence care. We also have a licensed social worker here that can help with resources and individual and group counseling.
Staff says the Christus Foundation spent over $1 million to renovate an existing space. The name 5020 was inspired by the Bible verse from the book of Genesis, which says healing and hope can come from tragedy.
Christus has a passion for helping people, especially people when you find them in their most vulnerable state. So we're very, very thankful that we can be a part of that.
Thomas's patients are not only referred by ER nurses, but also law enforcement, CPS, APS, and the Garth House. In studio, Ebony Coleman, 12 News.
About 100 Southeast Texas students are spending part of their summer getting hands-on science experience. For the second year, ExxonMobil and the Conference of National Black Churches are hosting a free STEM camp at Beaumont's Cathedral Faith Baptist Church. Now, 5th through 7th graders are learning about everything from oil and gas to water conservation, recycling, and carbon capture. Now, ExxonMobil says the goal is to make STEM fun while also showing kids how those skills could one day turn into a career.
The goal here is for students to come and join us, have those hands-on activities. They focus on different curriculum topics every day, really just to get them engaged before they go back to school and excited to learn about STEM, and hopefully come and join us at ExxonMobil one day.
And it's not too late to join in. Walk-ups are still accepted, and the camp is free and open to everybody, even students just visiting the area for the summer. And those were the headlines from Southeast Texas.